everyone. Hello, Dan, first of all.
Hi, Tülay.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Every day I spend with you, Tülay, is great. So thanks
Thank
for
you
thanks
so
for
much.
making this happen. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. So for everyone, you probably do know Daniel Vacanti, is right? But for the ones that meeting with him for the first time, I would love to give a quick intro about my guest briefly. Dan has 25 plus years experience in software industry, and he has focused most of his career on lean and agile practices. He's the co-founder of Pro-Kanban community and the co-author of Kanban Guide. He's an agile coach, trainer, consultant, and the writer of highly praised books. When Will It Be Done? ActionableAgile Metrics for Predictability, and the original mind behind the ActionableAgile Analytics Tool and the face of the brand ActionableAgile. Dan has a very close and strategic relationship with us at 55 Degrees, and I enjoy collaborating with him and learning from his wisdom every day. And by the way, everyone, this is Tülay Nergiz Johansson from 55 Degrees. I just realized that I forgot to introduce myself. And today I will be honored to have an interview with Dan about his upcoming book. So Dan, before we start digging into the new book, I'm just wondering about why one thing. Like, I just realized when I'm telling about your background, why agile? How did you involve and discover this topic?
Yeah, when I started off in software way back when, we won't say when, because that'll be giving away too much information. But when I got started, software was done so bad. I mean, it still is, but especially back then, software was done so badly, and I kept thinking, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And fairly early on in my career, I got kind of thrust into the management side of things, almost against my wishes. But it's a long story. But especially when I became a manager, it became really important to me. I saw how my team was suffering. I saw how the people around me were really struggling to meet arbitrary deadlines and things like that. So that's when I started looking around, and that luckily for me, that kind of coincided with the rise of Agile, and so it just seemed like a natural fit.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So about the topic of today, can you tell us more about your new book? What inspired, motivated you to write this book?
Yeah, so this book will be part 2 or volume 2, however we decide the title, volume 2 of the first book. And I always say, so this is the third book that I've written now, and it seems like with each book that I write, I keep thinking this is the book that I should have written first. But mostly this book is around topics that I wanted to include in the first book that I kind of touch on. I do kind of touch on these topics in the first book, but I don't give them nearly enough, enough attention, enough detail. And so over the years, I've been wanting to, but we've been doing some other things like starting Pro-Kanban, doing all this stuff. And this year, it just so happened that I finally got around to being able to put all these thoughts together coherently. Hopefully, the audience finds them coherent. Into something that's more formally a book. So I actually, because of, if I can even talk even longer, because of the collaboration with 55 Degrees, I've been trying to write some blog posts and things like that. And I originally envisioned this as a blog series, and I may still turn it into a blog series. But as I started writing, I was like, this really actually probably needs to be a book. So that's the story.
Well, that's very nice. That's very nice to hear that our blog series also inspire you to even write more about the topic. So I'm very happy to hear that. I already know, but can you please share the name of the book so then our audience can also learn from you? What's the name of the book?
Yeah, I think it will be right now. The working title is, and I'm pretty sure this is what the actual title would be. It will be Actionable Agile Metrics for Predictability, Volume 2. So just piggybacking off of that first book and kind of making it obvious that this is a progression in that series. So that's I don't see that name changing between now and publication, which I hope is in a couple weeks.
One thing you said interesting, that there has been some topics you already touched at the first book. So as a person from your audience that gives me the question then, how this book is different than the first one and what I will learn from this book as an extra thing.
Yeah, so the first book was all about data and the collection of data, how to turn that data into flow metrics and how to understand what the flow metrics are. And I can say this, most people probably recognize this. It's kind of really meant as a reference, more as a reference for those topics. I know it's kind of a hard read from cover to cover, but it's the absolute basics that you have to know in order to do any type of data analysis. The problem with that is because of that, I don't really get into the details of the actual data analysis. And so in this book, I cover a lot more of, now that you've got your data, now that you know how to calculate flow metrics, how do you understand and how do you interpret the data? Because there's some things maybe you've been taught that are probably not quite so right. There's hopefully maybe some things that you didn't even know that you need to watch out for. So those types of things are in there, as well as advanced topics in Monte Carlo simulation. While I introduced very, very basic, I would say like team level Monte Carlo simulation. What about if we're trying to forecast, at a portfolio level? What if we're trying to forecast, say, higher level work items like features and epics? What if we're trying to, how do we account for things like dependencies and things like that? So a lot more, given our understanding of of data analysis, we can use that to have a much more interesting conversation, I think, about Monte Carlo simulation and how we might forecast the future.
That sounds very interesting. And also I was wondering, do you think we need to be experts in the area to benefit from this book?
I hope not. I mean, I hope not. So you will certainly have to have some knowledge of flow metrics. Do you have to read the first book in order to get anything out of this book? I'm just kind of thinking through that. I think the short answer is no, because I do some review in this book of concepts in the first book. So I think the short answer is no, but you would definitely benefit. I think the people who've read the first book will probably get a lot more out of this, out of this book. So do you have to be an expert? No, because I'm not even sure that I'm an expert, but some comfort with flow metrics, I think is essential. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, he's way too humble sometimes. I can comfortably say that, yes, he's an expert. So maybe we should take this answer like, yeah, it would be good for you to read the first, then jump into second one, right? So I was also wondering about like how long you have been writing. It's like, can you please describe us your creative process a little bit?
Yeah, like we talk about in the first book, it depends on, when will it be done and how long depends on when you start the clock, right? I mean, I suppose most technically the clock started when I was writing the first book, because there were lots of topics that just didn't make it into that first book. But they got shelved. And then, like I said, I started to dust them off when I started doing the blog series for you earlier this year. So I think from when I sat down at the keyboard and I was serious about writing, probably 2 months or so, something like that yeah. I guess I mean, that might sound short to a lot of people, but there was stuff that I'd written before. A lot of these topics I've been thinking about a lot, been teaching them. So I mean, it wasn't, while this book I think was harder to write than the first one, it's not like I really struggled for for topics to put into it. I mean, it's just I kind of knew what I wanted to write about.
Yeah, I get that. And also I was just wondering, when you're in the creative process, like designing something from scratch or writing about something, that process also requires a lot of research and thinking. So is there something you figured it out when you are working on this book? Did you learn something during your writing process?
I think this will sound bad, but I think I'm most motivated when I'm either angry or frustrated. You know, that was my motivation to write my first book, and that was kind of my motivation for this one, is because there's just, as you know, you deal with this every day. You know, there's a lot of noise out there in Agile, a lot of noise, a lot of misinformation, a lot of disinformation. And so I always see my books as an opportunity, hopefully an opportunity, to kind of correct some of that stuff. So my creative process is, I'll see something, it'll make me angry. I'm like, I got to write about that, you know. And so that's really just kind of how, you know, I wish it was more sophisticated. I wish it was sexier than that, but it's not, you know.
No, I mean, this is a very honest and correct answer. This is what we like to learn, right? So I was also wondering, like, as you just said, that there is like lots of misinformation out there. So if you need to pick one message for your audience, what do you want them to learn from this book? What they should expect?
Yeah.
What we should read them?
Talk about this idea of predictability being a verb. So many people think predictability is about being 100% correct. So it's like a one-time plan, being 100% correct about, you know, forecasting the future. Or they think it's about collecting data and doing fancy statistical stuff like Monte Carlo simulation. And like I said before, that's part of it. But much more importantly, if you really want to be predictable with your process, much more important is the small decisions that you make every single day, around, you know, around just basic process stuff, right? So things like paying attention to aging, things like limiting work in progress, things like breaking items up when they get too big. Those are the things that are going to make you predictable, that so many people, I think, you know, forget about or don't pay attention to. Those have a much bigger impact on your ability to be predictable. And hopefully these books will tell you, will help you understand that if you don't do those things, you know, this is how they're going to manifest themselves in your process. And the biggest being unpredictability.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this will be my favorite question. When will it be ready to buy? When we can buy?
I think that is a lot of that is kind of up to you, and you know, when we get this video out. So sometime probably late October is the goal. So I don't know if maybe this is the appropriate time to maybe kind of talk about some channels, how people can buy it, because that kind of plays into this. My goal is to have this initially published on LeanPub, like I said, in kind of mid to late October, probably closer to late October. So just like my other books, I first published them on LeanPub. LeanPub has been a wonderful platform for me. The nice thing about that is, you know, I usually get a lot of feedback about the book. Once I first publish on LeanPub, it'll allow me to maybe tighten some things up, make some changes. Once the book kind of settles down that way, the goal is to have it out on Amazon probably early next year. So on Amazon, both in a Kindle format, as well as in a print format. So sometime first quarter next year, that the Amazon version will be available.
And of course, we will let everyone know about it. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for answering our questions, Dan. It has been a great pleasure for us. And good luck with the new book. I already started reading it, but I haven't finished it yet. So yeah, we'll talk. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tülay, thanks for the questions, and thanks everybody. I hope you enjoy the book. So thank you so much.